My next video is meant to be about the Project Moon User Association and how they're morally bankrupt beyond repair and employ some of the stupidest people you could imagine. But when going to write that, I saw G-Chan upload quite possibly the most ignorant video I've seen in a while. A video that is about neutrality and stopping the spread of hate and misinfo, yet was so poorly done to where it spread hate and misinfo. Further divided the Project Moon community, caused some content creators to be harassed, and brought up some of the most brain-dead takes I've seen in a while. So I'm going to go over that video and talk about why it is so poorly done and why, as a content creator, you need to be more responsible in what you make than whatever that was. And that was going to be the intro to this video. The messaging of calling his points abundantly stupid and stating just why I felt as though it was a blight to have been made, as the video fails in many places. But I find that in tearing what he had to say down by focusing on the negatives, I ignored the overall message and what it was trying, within my opinion falling short, but what it was trying to do. So here's what I would like to do with this video. One is to condemn any harassment. What G-Chan was trying to do and what I have been trying to do in all of my videos is to stop that from happening. So, I want to say that within saying why his video failed, I don't want my arguments to be weapons brought in hurting what he has to say. Instead, I want what I say in this to be an insight on how to speak on an issue, how to display neutrality within a video, and why harassment is terrible. As the original script was me saying why his video was so stupid, how it was moronic, idiotic, etc, etc. But the actual message is that I feel like I could agree with most of it. However, the shortcomings of it are massive. So that's what this video will be, constructive criticism, if you would. Then the second part I would like to cover is discussing the actual situation with Zet, what he's done, the content of his character, and the people he's hurt. Then I want to talk about the Project Moon community and give my thoughts about it. So that's what this video will be about, and heads up, the editing of it will be a lot more bare bones than usual, as even though there's a lot to talk about here, discussing the vile things I've seen from the Project Moon User Association is much more of an important issue to me. There's importance here, but the two are not even close. So let's talk about G-Chan's video and why I believe it did a poor job in displaying the situation at hand and neutrality. Also, for context on the Project Moon community, in this scenario there's not much to know except for the fact that it has undergone a huge boost in popularity to how it was prior. Here's the Steam player charts exploring the prior game's popularity to the current one, and this has brought up talks on if the community is becoming vile. But more on that later. So it starts off with saying how the video is not related to the most recent drama, which I wasn't surprised to hear as I heard months before some of the discontent G-Chan has had with the community. Discontent I agreed on. Then he says how the recent Zet situation has pushed him to making this video. What is the Zet situation? Well, here's his explanation. It started with Eric drawing pride art of Bong Bong on the first day of Pride Month. Then he posted it on Twitter. Shortly after, Zet came in with this quote retweet, causing an outrage and leading everyone to spam this phrase at him. Reason for that phrase is because it has words in it that will cause Twitter bots to spam reply to the messages, thus flooding the notifications of, in this case Zet, comments left by bots. Then the artist who made one of his VTuber models claimed to be scammed by Zet, which only ruined his credibility. As how you gonna scam an artist as you're a VTuber? But a lot more on this later. Fast forward, Saf, a VTuber who covers drama, makes a video about Zet. And then G-Chan says her video caused the Zet fiasco to be reignited. Not too long after, he was kicked out of a charity he had a part in hosting. And now Zet has gone full schizo post in his hate messages, burning the bridge and just saying everyone who is LGBTQ is a groomer. Then G-Chan states that after this, Zet just continues to post the stupidest rhetoric on his Twitter. Now the vibe I get from this was that the charity falling out was the catalyst for all of this, so keep that part in mind. This was apparently what made him dig his own grave completely and just continue to spew hate. He then says,
"Now, we're already aware that Zet had dug his own grave at this point. He ended up swallowing too many black pills and has already been bullied en masse."
Stop! He's already dead!
Saying how he does not support what Zet had to say, then wants to call out how the community handled this situation, stating his discontent with people leaving comments on his videos and says that me and Escu participated in the dogpiling of Zet, which exacerbated the problems and encouraged it, also saying how bad it was that Escu said L in his chat. Then later says how I backed down a bit by stating not to harass him. Keep that phrasing in mind, backed down a bit. It conveys that I retracted my statements and messaging towards Zet in a way to make it more palatable, but it did little to quell the harassment and might have done the opposite instead. Then you could see the harassment and how people were spamming Zet's business email with random newsletters, and people were convinced that the harassment was justified as Zet is the bad guy. So this shows his stance in the video. It's one of neutrality. He talked about what Zet did and stated how the harassment has been taken too far. But here's where the video fails. It didn't paint the whole picture. He said that the catalyst for all of this was Zet's first quote retweet of Eric's art, and when he got kicked from the charity, he went full schizo post. This is a half-truth bred from a lack of research. It paints the idea that Zet has not had a history of this, that just one quote retweet is what caused all of this, which I doubt is what he wanted to convey, but that's a vibe I get from it. Here's the actual case. He has been reposting racist shit in support of Project 2025, against immigrants, against trans people, gay people, calling races other than white and some Asians subhuman, and has posts that border really close to calls of violence. Most of these have been done for months before Pride Month of this year even started, and some after his initial quote retweet. Now G-Chan conveyed in the video, Zet made a bad quote retweet and retweets hateful stuff aside from that. But within just verbally saying this, a lot of important context is missing, as he doesn't go to show the very problematic retweets of Zet, we just get little snippets in the video. Which is also why the framing of Zet having just pissed off the LGBTQ community isn't the full-blown truth, as it just ignores the numerous racist retweets. So with saying all that, let's go over some of them. White people deserve to be in their own white nation, making sure to keep the third world non-white out. Fucking that says that being trans is just a trans people are racist, showing how them browns be hurting the white countries, not even gonna comment on these two. Subtle call for violence, you love to see it. Everyone of a specific race is a killer, and here's some anti-LGBTQ stuff. Yeah, it took a while to see more of that. Needing to scroll through all the racist shit took a minute. And this only took a couple of seconds to really display the content of his character that he is happy with showcasing. But G-Chan's video doesn't take those few seconds. And because of that, I find it paints the idea that Zet only hates LGBTQ people. Nah. If you're not white or some specific Asians, he's reposted shit saying you're subhuman. That's his beliefs. And in terms of retweets in the past, here's him supporting people doing the Hail Hitler sign. And I would like to get more old reposts, but when I scrolled for them, I got rate limited, which, Jesus Christ, Zet, log the fuck off. You got 6,000 posts and reposts. But I will say, in the past he had a lot less of these reposts. Still enough to get a bad rep, as I've known about how Zet is for months before this Pride Month even started. But to paint the depth of hate within his messages from just one quote retweet and the few retweets we see in the video does a disservice in accurately reporting on Zet and why people dislike him. It's definitely not intentional, as G-Chan has stated over and over how he hates what Zet is saying. But the video ended up painting a different reality than what the actual case is. It downplayed the hateful rhetoric Zet has continuously reposted, which is where the neutrality fails. You need to post the arguments of both sides. He has stated that he dislikes how this situation turned into a community beating on Zet, but he didn't show the long history which was the spark of that fire. And sure enough, when someone went to Saf's video to harass her, they thought all of this was done off of just one quote retweet. That's where the danger of misrepresenting something comes from. And almost as if in elation to the video, Zet comes in to say with a comment, I could honestly care less about them hounding me. Their opinions are completely invalid. At least the vid that V-Thought made gave me and my friends some good laughs. Then he says how anyone who speaks out against his beliefs is in a cult, this statement being aimed towards the LGBTQ community, which again goes to show why it would have been more important to not make this just a thing about pride, but also mention his numerous racist reposts. That's why I think it was being too kind on Zet. Funnily enough, it was being too kind as it just didn't spend time showing his actions. And on the point of us supporting harassment and calling out Zet, here's my thoughts. I view the argument as contradictory to the video. As if calling out shitty behavior is enough to spread harassment, then your entire video is meant to spread harassment. Now I would imagine there's nuance into why that's not the case, but the video didn't cover that nuance. Just like how it misrepresented my stance as well. You took the first tweet I made and said how it was in relation to Zet. You didn't bring up how I didn't reply to him, didn't mention him, and didn't quote retweet him. Now this doesn't precisely make the tweet invisible about who it's in relation to, but there is a great difference in something that is a direct quote retweet and just one gone out in the wild. And I know you know all of this, as you reply to it. But that context was never stated in the video. Then you said I backtracked and said to not harass him, ignoring how within all of my videos on drama I have repeatedly said to not harass someone. How if you're not harming yourself or anyone else, then I have no reason to hate you. And you know this is the case too, as we've messaged one another about this. But you never reported that and later went on to say how my behavior can make a community of people willing to harass someone, ignoring the messaging I have always said. Messaging I've parroted in response to this comment under the post of my death threat. Which is why I was originally mad at this video, as it promotes neutrality but has already failed in that. It didn't cover the depth of what Zet has said and also didn't cover all of the things I have said to my community. That is why, when you make a video about neutrality and exploring both sides, you cannot just simply gloss over what one has to say. You need to dive into it, but this video did not. And also, back to the point of our responses, if saying someone is cringe is condoning harassment, then what about someone spreading the ideology that some races are subhuman? Should we just be accepting of that because calling it out would be bad? And if we shouldn't say something because we have a following, couple of things. Zet has 10,000 subscribers. Where's his accountability? He's a full-grown adult. We don't need to baby him when he spits rhetoric that subtly calls for violence. So I don't view very minor comments, on their own, as something that is supporting harassment, especially when the comments are in relation to displaying the character of a person. If someone can say to you, here, look at their actions, and you view that as a negative, brother, that's on you. You dug that grave yourself, lie in it. And there is importance in displaying the character of someone, both as I said how this video failed at it, and also I would want to inform people about Zet's character. Because here's the thing, if someone stumbles upon his videos and supports him, donates, etc., and they're black, I feel it's in their best interest to say that their goat doesn't view them as the same species. To me, that is more important than being nice and buddy-buddy to someone that is spouting all of this hate. But here's the thing. Even though Zet is a cardboard cutout of a stereotypical racist, I don't think people should have gone and messed with his email. Zet made verbal statements harassing people of many groups. People have the right to respond in kind to that. So long as it's the same energy, as in just verbal, I don't see the problem. Which, by the way, I specifically stated that context, but it was left out of the video. Now this is also why I'm not against people commenting on his videos, within some restrictions. As when the comment puts a mirror to his beliefs, which he views to be right, I can't see a problem with that. It's like if I slap someone, then people played a video of me doing that back to others to show how I slapped a person. How could I be mad at that? Those were my actions. So the comments saying his beliefs, I think are fine. Hell, he ain't got a problem with it. I won't pretend I do. But the comments saying nothing constructive of just pack it up aren't any good. However, the video did not state this, so to me it appears that any comment, even so far as just saying his beliefs, is the wrong move to make in your opinion. Is that the case? I don't know, which is another failing of it. Lacks nuance. However, there is no nuance to be found with the emails. Again, that's just inherently not constructive. Don't do it. Then G-Chan brings up the artist situation, saying how she reported they were underpaid and scammed by Zet. But it was missing the context that the artists set their own price. So it's not that Zet underpaid them, it's instead that the artist didn't ask for what her work was worth, and the fault of it does lie with them. However, I actually got in contact with the artists. Well, it's more that they contacted me, but yeah. So let me do what evidently no one has cared to and tell her story about Zet. She says how she was a fan of his and watched many streams. She then joined the Discord and drew so much art for him, free of charge, just fan art. She then took note of a group of people in the server who drew Zet as a woman, so she picked up on this and started to draw his model as female. And at first, he groaned about it jokingly. Fast forward, Zet then took interest in seeing the VR chat model Caracola was working on, and the, now infamous, commission started off. They chose the price for two reasons. One was that they were a fan and really wanted to see the model. Two was that they remember seeing a video on prices and misremembered what it really asked for. So because of that, he paid $135 for the model instead of the $600 it should have been. Now, I don't blame him for this. If that was the proposed price, you take that and be grateful for it. He has multiple models, which would mean he has to have somewhat of a ballpark for the average price, so I would imagine he'd be fairly grateful for such a discount. Now with that being the case, how do you think he treated this person? A fan of his which has made so much fan art and gave him a model for about $500 cheaper than what it should have been. Well, he said he wanted it rigged and she hazily said she'd be able to, thus kicking off the adventure of someone trying to rig a model as they got not much experience in that field. It took them 11 days. Then after they were done, they zipped it, sent it, and he bitched about having to use Microsoft PowerShell to really run it. She was very kind in assisting him, and this is how that kindness was repaid.
I think I'd probably ask Voskrim if anything. I'm not asking Caracola to do anything anymore. Why not? I literally said it already in the stream. I'm down $150 because of you. Why would I work with somebody like that again? You have a model I don't use? I have a model that doesn't work. I told you this already. So now I have to go find somebody else, and if I do find somebody else, I'm gonna have to commission them more to work on it, to fix it. Caracola will remember that? I hope they do. Because that's kind of fucked. I'm not made of money. I'm not some middle class person. You guys hear the dogs outside. I don't live in like a homeowners association area.
How are you going to do that to someone who was so kind to you? Keep in mind, the model worked. It just required some effort on his end, but he's just out here bitching. Then after they left the Discord due to getting insights on his actual character, which, by the way, I'ma be petty. Remember my point behind the importance of stating out someone's character? Yeah, same logic applies, as this person was doing all of this for someone who thinks her kind are rapists. However, they importantly stated that they aren't part of the Project Moon fanbase. They were a part of Zet's community. Then you look at how he treated her, and yeah, that's another part of his character which deserves to be talked about. Then she clarifies that when she says she got scammed, it was out of her time. Not money, but the time it took to do everything he asked of her, to pay that back with vitriol. Also, she made 2 alternative costumes, was told she'd be paid extra, and yeah, she wasn't. Now all of this shows the context on why the artist was mad at him. They weren't a trans artist who was scammed by their own pricing. They were a member of his community that was treated like shit, and after 11 days of working, her work was insulted on a livestream due to the laziness of setting up the model. Then he goes off to proudly say how her kind are doing all this horrid shit. Now, I want this message to play out in its meaning. To those who lack reading comprehension, let me break it down. Zet is so morally bankrupt to where even if you gave him a deal of $500 off, slave away for 11 days, make so much fan art of him and remain in his community, supporting him across all this time, he will publicly bash you on a live stream. Now if you think me publicly stating these actions of his is wrong, then I don't know what to tell you. But let's go back to the video of neutrality which missed this voice in it. So when it comes to Zet scamming them, he went to provide proof of this, but people still ran with the narrative that he underpaid them. While it's more that the artists underpaid themselves. Little did we all know, this shit was much worse. But all of this is important to say as misinfo is terrible to spread. Even if you don't like Zet, stating how him choosing to underpay the artist is a lie is important. Especially when you get to say what actually happened. But you shouldn't lie. I fully agree with G-Chan. So what if I said that less than a minute after this he went on to spread misinfo? Let's play what he had to say about Saf and the quote he used.
People continued to spread the misinformation that the artist was a victim of Zet underpaying them. The VTuber who covered Zet is also guilty of this. They essentially took the proof and disregarded it as Zet saying boo-hoo.
Undercharging transgender artists for a custom 3D model.
Undercharging transgender artists for a custom 3D model, which implies that she was saying he undercharged the artist instead of them undercharging themselves. Now, let's play the quote with full context.
Which, by the way, Zet retweeted from this artist in the past and also commissioned an undercharging transgender artist for a custom 3D model.
Zet commissioned an undercharging transgender artist for a custom 3D model, saying that the artists undercharged themselves, but it was cut in a way to make it seem like she was saying something different. And sure enough, she was harassed over this. Now when I contacted him, he said it was an honest mistake and later pinned a comment explaining that, which is the best you could do after a fuck up like this. And he specifically went into Saf's comments to talk to the commenter about why this behavior goes against his video. He handled it the best he could, but he should never have put himself in a situation where he got something so important and so easily verifiable wrong. That's another problem I have with how poorly researched the video is. It spread that misinfo to the thousands who watched it before I brought up the correction to him. Then he states how there was misinfo of Zet harassing people. This is true, he didn't harass anyone in particular from what I've seen. But to say he did not speak a single word until he was kicked out of the charity, verbatim what was said in the video, is uninformed. As he may not have harassed a specific person about this, but he has been consistently reposting the same hateful messages I outlined prior. All of this in between that first quote retweet and him being kicked from the charity. But that was never mentioned. In fact, I'd say the video gives the vibe that Saf's video, after having reignited the discourse, is what got him kicked out. But I mean, it's pretty apparent that the charity organizers have access to Twitter. They could have gone into his retweets, scrolled for 5 seconds and saw a post justifying genocide. He may not have directly said something to a person, but it's not rocket science to sleuth out why the charity didn't want his ass. Aside from that, the Dino Dave segment didn't really get anything wrong, so no problems there. Then he states how the community is going full throttle and becoming similar to the toxicity we see in the Genshin fandom. Actually, we've already hit it. And let me play this segment in full.
On one side, you got people thinking spreading misinformation and harassment are perfectly justified if it's against the right person. And on the other, people who assume that everyone in the LGBTs are groomers. There's no winning side for this, as both of them have nothing but hatred in their hearts. The effects of this are pretty devastating. What it essentially does is push people who are neutral away from the community, or sometimes even radicalize some people.
It's about neutrality, but when you reduce both sides to this and say how it pushes the neutral side to radicalization or outright leaving, you did two things. One was stripping away all nuance of the sides, and two was misrepresenting both of them. You said the LGBTQ side was one of harassment and misinfo, and people were spreading that, but are you really gonna say every single person who had a problem with Zet did that? Are you gonna say thousands did that, and strip away any of their own personal viewpoints on this matter? As again, the segment is literally painting two sides and saying that people looking at the community will either leave and not join one side or become radicalized and join one of them. So, by your logic, if people call out Zet for being racist, are they complicit in harassment and spamming his email? As there's only two sides and the people in between are brain dead, I suppose. Then you say Zet's side is one against LGBTQ people. Again, that's wrong. If you ain't white or some Asian races, he thinks you're subhuman. But the video doesn't go into this depth. That's why I dislike it. From this, if you had no clue on the drama, then here's the conclusion I think most would reach. Zet had one bad quote retweet and everyone lost their shit. An artist lied about being scammed by him, a dumbass drama VTuber aided in these lies. Then everyone on Twitter went to harass him for just one bad quote retweet. And this harassment bubbled over into him being kicked from the charity. From there he got emotional and lashed out. This train of thought removes the importance behind his actions, removed the agency in how he chose to spew and retweet the vile shit he has been doing, and also silences the voice of the artist and what they dealt with in regards to Zet. And to me, about a video of neutrality and stopping misinfo, you failed. There's no other way to put it. I won't sugarcoat it. You failed. In a video where you want to condemn this person's hate speech, you barely scratched the surface of it to where he was happy with your video. You also misrepresented many people's viewpoints and made a gross simplification of everything. Then it said I was complicit within this harassment, and I'm cultivating a community of it, despite most of my videos starting with this message. Me saying over and over how much I dislike harassment, and when I called Zet out, I made a sharp note that anything beyond verbally calling out his points, I don't agree with. But none of that was brought up in the video. So that's why the original script wasn't exactly kind until I had a friend look at me, look at the script, then told me how much of a dumbass I was being. But I still greatly dislike how my perspective was shown. However, that's not a personal throw against me. It just displays the fault with having a video with such an important and nuanced message be handled in a poor way. Now, if anyone cannot see how the video failed from what I pointed out, I don't know what else I could say, but I can help give a voice to some people. Let's hear how Zet has treated the members in his community who have stuck with him for so long. And by the way, if you think I should not cover their perspectives and voices towards Zet's character, let me ask you, if you were an artist, would you have appreciated hearing what Caracola went through? And furthermore, if you were a member of his community, would you appreciate hearing all of these stories? Just keep that in mind as we go through them. So we covered Caracola's voice earlier, but now let's talk about the voice of the person who made his LobCorp avatar, Manta Rain. So here's how the model, within all of its rigging, came to be. Originally, it was made as just fan art, something for free that Manta chose to do for him. Then Zet, happy with Manta's fan art, contacted him over Discord to ask if he could retrofit the drawing to be rigged for VTubing by another person, and he was promised compensation of $200. So, Manta does the retrofitting for the model, gives it to Zet, and Zet uses it in many streams. However, there's a problem. Manta has yet to be paid. The model is done, Zet is using it, yet Manta has not received the $200 which was promised to him. Also, by the way, I would like to point out, the price of $200 for retrofitting was made in 2021. And for full clarification, that wasn't even to cover rigging, as that was someone else's job. Meanwhile, Caracola gave him the price of $135 for both rigging and making the model in 2024, which means that Zet knew just how low $135 was for all of that work, yet he still treated her like shit publicly in a live stream. But moving on, a year and a half passes since Zet got the model, and then he finally pays Manta Rain. He pays them $100. Yep, you heard that right, $100, not the agreed upon $200. Now Manta took this deal as they did not notice the price being dropped by half, possibly because they could have been about halfway through a 4-year-long college course before they were paid, and during this time, Zet was actively using this model. Which, Zet, what the fuck is wrong with you? And also, what the fuck is wrong with how you handle your Discord? I've heard so many stories of heinous shit being done in it, and you barely banned people for it. Also, that wasn't precisely helped by the fact you gave your mods no permissions for actually moderating people. Motherfuckers had to directly contact you to ban some people. And you know what? I heard of some disgusting people that spent so long on your server without getting banned, but I'm choosing to not bring them up, as the shit I would have been saying, I don't want to say without irrefutable proof. I'ma keep some of these stories to myself. But I also feel as though running your server better with mods having actual permissions would have prevented them quicker. But hey, that's just my perspective. I will say though, I do find it a little weird that in your Not Safe for Work channel that's meant to be just vanilla, you got people posting out porn. But I mean, hey, to each their own. If that's vanilla to you, that's fine. I suppose you don't want to ban that, as it would feel like you're under a dictatorship, much like how some of your members think you live under one with swastikas and saying Hail Hitler being banned. But that perspective is a little weird, as you've banned people for just making harmless jokes about you. Apparently, if people just joked about you being inactive, you banned them. Kinda sounds like a dictatorship to me, but hey, I know him in full, so what can I say? But in fact, there's many stories of you lashing out at people for making little jokes at you. Not little as in the fact of how you're a forest halfling either, little more so equating to how fragile your ego is. But weirdly enough, you never really had a problem when people were insulting your racist Aryan race beliefs, so I suppose you're proud of those? Now from these stories, I do want to clarify that it's just stuff I heard. Unlike the artist speaking, I don't have the most in-depth screenshots of this, as most of his old members left his Discord. So I'm saying that take what I said with a grain of salt. Maybe Zet has good explanations for this. Hear him out if he ever wants to talk about these things. However, think to yourself, how likely is it that from what we've seen of his character that he'd do this? Just ruminate on that. And from these stories, I didn't try to contact Zet because I tried to do that about a year ago during my interview video and he never responded. So for whatever reason, I wasn't precisely the most keen on asking him. And there was also a ton of things I heard about him that I didn't mention, as going into that would have harmed the privacy of some people. And funnily enough, I didn't even really have to look hard for any of this. Zet just burned so many bridges with being an asshole to those he's talked with, to where it seems like 90% of people who've interacted with him before just hate him and are down to talk about how he was a dick to them. So there's more to this, but honestly, I don't know if there's much reason to bring it up. If you somehow looked at this and still thought Zet has a good character or treats his fanbase kindly, then I mean shit, I got a pointy hood and some white robes I would want to sell you. Let's make this a business opportunity for me. Though if Zet wants to make a response to this, he definitely can, and people should listen to what he has to say. But end of the day, I hope this video is as funny to him as the other two were. I've always tried to make people happy with my content, so I hope he's overjoyed to hear all this. But here's the timeline of events as I know them. Zet is treating the people in his community as absolute trash. If you gave him a discount of $500 and spent 11 days working on his model, he will publicly bash you in a live stream. Now this contempt boils over and over until a lot of the people in his community decide to leave. Then over time, Zet develops the political depth of an edgy 13-year-old and starts to repost some of the most brain-dead political takes you can imagine. Truly, the reposts are so stupid to where at times, like when he's reposting shit killing white people the Aryan race, I need to question if he's trolling or just truly brain-dead. But regardless, he makes his beliefs public, and they are, from what I've seen, that to Zet, if you're not white, Japanese, or South Korean, he thinks you're an animal, that you're subhuman. Furthermore, if you're any type of letter in the alphabet, he thinks you're flying side by side with Epstein on the Lolita Express. Well, maybe he wouldn't hate the Lolita Express, as again, he has shown interest in lolly characters, and I do want to clarify that I'm not calling him a pedo. I just thought it was a funny joke. He does heavily defend lolly characters, but I'd save calling him a pedo for when, or if, he does something with actual children or illegal within that manner. To me, that's how I view it. The fact that he's down with seeing anime characters that look like children put within a sexual manner is weird as hell to me, but I wouldn't say he's hitting up that Dr. Disrespect route. Now from here, the fact that he's a white supremacist and holds about all the phobias you can imagine is as open a secret as his love for Letitia and discontent at swastikas being banned. Now, more members in his community are treated like trash due to his narcissistic personality, and they leave, not wanting anything to do with him. Then rolls in the start of Pride Month. He makes this, within his words, snide remark, and it opens up the floodgates. Now keep in mind, the hate wasn't just fueled by this quote retweet, as members of his community have already been slighted so much by him, and his beliefs, which are much worse than this, are being openly retweeted on his account. So this is more of a slight peel back to the person he really is. Then people took the mask off and saw, well, stuff like this. Which is what caused that level of outrage at him. To say the quote retweet was the fire? Nah. He has been adding Kindle due to his actions for months. Then his quote retweet was a spark to the pile of tinder that he himself made. Now after this point, he has since doubled, tripled, fucking quadrupled, goddamn sextupled, whatever the hell, in his beliefs. So when people heard Zet made a dumb comment on his Twitter feed, when motherfuckers went to search for it, they had to see so many reposts calling whatever group they're a part of basically any slur you can imagine. Now from there, that showed the emotionally charged response. And the reason he didn't have too many people in his community defending him is because, well, keep in mind how he treats someone giving him a discount equating to the price of a PlayStation 5. After, Saf makes a video and all she does in it is just directly show what Zet has done. Like, she didn't even really throw a ton of spice with what she was saying, she literally just showed his reposts. Which is why I would say the video didn't do anything bad. I mean, if someone takes a screenshot of your reposts and then shows them, and you get mad at that, bitch, that shit's on you. And it didn't really reignite any fires either, as again, Zet was out here in full force reposting shit you would think a Russian troll farm would be tasked with sharing. So it's not like the wool was pulled over anyone's eyes. Then the charity probably clicked on his account, scrolled, saw Zet subtly calling for violence and went, bitch, we good. From there, he verbally says what he's been reposting for months, and not many people are precisely happy with that, which boils up to people spamming his email with posts from the Guardian, and from there, it dies down. You don't really see many people bringing up Zet nowadays, well, until G-Chan's video was made. So here's my perspective on how the community treated Zet. It's fine to verbally say why Zet is a bad person, it's fine to describe his actions, and although I won't send anyone into his comment section, especially as at this point there's just no reason to, but if someone wishes to say what Zet has done in it, I don't see the problem. If you leave a comment saying, this person thinks alphabet soup is for groupers, I mean, yeah, it's true, he does. And who knows, the exposure of his beliefs in the comments may help another trans artist see just how much he hates them before they waste almost half a month making something before Zet just bitches at them. However, comments saying you fell off, washed, etc., those don't serve any purpose behind them. While I understand the emotional reaction behind it, I would say it doesn't serve a purpose like a comment about his beliefs could, so don't do that. And when it comes to dunking on Zet for saying this type of stuff on Twitter, I think it was fine to. People shouldn't get to spout hate speech unchallenged. I'm not gonna look at you as some devil for saying someone's cringe over it, but at this point, both within Twitter dunking and comment dunking, it's largely run its course to where I would say it doesn't achieve much. Here's the thing, G-Chan's video inadvertently painted a different story about Zet's actions, and mine is just putting a spotlight on what he's done. So at this point, I would imagine people already have a good clue into the content of his character, which is why most dunks you can make now don't achieve much, as you're basically just beating a red-pilled, overdosed dead horse. Telling others about the content of his character is good, but to just bash him with comments of it now doesn't achieve much. Those who will continue to support him are cool with his subhuman ideology, calling anyone who expresses sexual freedom groomers, and are down with how his shitty personality has hurt so many in his community and means he will continue to treat other people in it like absolute trash. And if you're cool with that, to each their own. Enjoy yourself and discuss Zet at the local clan meetup, you'll do your thing. I know there's many perspectives in life, so if that's yours, well, it is what it is. And because of this, any dunks now are just wastes of time. Zet's already doom scrolling on Twitter for 10 hours a day. I don't think we could help him. It's an open topic that he loves racism as much as lollies. There's not much reason to spam him with that. And if you're mad at Zet, then yeah, that's understandable. But since the message has already gone out for the content of his character, just block and move on. I don't agree with G-Chan that exclaiming discontent towards his views means you are complicit in harassment. After all, we already looked at how bringing this forward saves someone a lot of wasted time, and people should have the freedom to speak out against someone saying they're an animal. I'm not gonna rob someone of that. And the logic itself is shaky, as to me it doubles for, if G-Chan was a bigger creator, then I would be able to say terrible things about him. That he's subhuman, a horrid person who is a little too close to the Epstein's Assemble Squad, that he should not be able to speak about what I am saying as he would be complicit in harassment, but that's dumb to say. If I were to hold a guess, he's saying that after a certain point people need to stop dogpiling on him, and I agree, I've said we've reached that point. But the video was not clear, so it gave off the impression, especially with the two-side segment, that anyone calling out his behavior is terrible and wants to harass him, despite the good putting a spotlight on his beliefs can do, which I was able to quantifiably show. But anything after this point is just mobbing. My video gets a pass though, as G-Chan's made people think that Zet wasn't this type of person. Nah, he wants these views to be public. I'll help out this dumb little elf. Shit, I wasn't even gonna make this video until G-Chan made his. So I've covered why G-Chan's video was actively harmful in its messaging due to a lack of research and underexplained points when it comes to a topic this nuanced. I've also covered why Zet is... yeah. Now let's talk about the Project Moon community. Do I think it gives way to quick tribalism against what people say is bad? Yep, same happened with the Velmori situation last year. Do I think Zet is inherently the best mouthpiece to display this problem with? No. You literally pulled up someone most people in the world would have a problem with, not the most ironcast point to make your statement with. He's literally just an idiot who swallowed too many red pills and can't think for himself. Combine that with laziness and a lack of care for the people within his community, you got your local forest halfling. I think the Dino Dave point hammers the message much better, but since the video wasn't that in-depth and specific of its messaging, you had people equate the negative opinions on Zet as the same two opinions on Dino Dave. And here's the key difference. Dino Dave gave opinions about a video game. Zet gave hateful opinions on real groups of people. To equate the two of them is dumb. But when it comes to the view of neutrality on the Project Moon community, I don't think anyone has collectively pissed off so many different sides of it than me. Let me explain. People on 4chan hate me for APR and calling out Zet. People on Twitter and Tumblr are convinced that I hate gay people. And people against gacha incels think I am supporting them when I covered the Valmori situation. And here's the thing, all of these groups are fucking stupid. Let's run through it. I'm hated for supporting a pride charity and being bi, but at the same time, others are convinced that I hate them gay people. Then others think I support the incel crowd despite my video on it making so much fun of them and me making fun of them further in the NTR video, as, let's keep it real, there'd be some overlap between incels and those who think their 2D waifu has cheated on them. So what's the conclusion of this? The exact same shit I said in my State of the Internet video. People are ready to hate someone by just hearing a bit about them. You even see it here, when at this point, multiple people have gone off to Saf's video to harass her despite the only knowledge they have of her being what G-Chan misrepresented in his video. People are dumb. They don't care to really think for themselves. They saw G-Chan's video, didn't question a single thing, now they're out here defending someone who would be a grand wizard in the clan if he just simply went outside for once. Which is why I want to say that from this video, actually think about what I said. Like legitimately, don't just take everything I've said as fact. Granted, I've tried to verify this information as true to the best of my abilities, but don't just be co-signed to my thoughts and immediately conscripting yourself to my beliefs. Look at what I've had to say and show and see if it's believable to you. Now, if Zet makes a video about this one defending himself, hear him out. I think he has a dog shit character, but I don't think that's reason to throw away anything he has to say. Maybe he'll have some good explanations for his actions, or the video will sound like an old school Hitler speech, we'll see. But when it comes to the actions of the community, would I say this makes it abundantly toxic? Nah. It makes it normal. I've already seen so many fandoms take the same exact route. Honestly, any fandom that doesn't do shit like this is the exception that proves the norm. I wouldn't say it's as bad as the Genshin fandom, as we don't have people on the daily wishing death upon each other for shipping characters together, but I see where his concerns of it go. I just feel like with having misrepresented so much in the video, he actively added to misinformation and dividing people together. So if it comes down to how I would try and help the Project Moon community, a couple of things. Why the fuck are y'all asking a 21-year-old for advice? Jesus Christ, I'm not some old wise man, I'm still a dumbass. Furthermore, I don't think anyone could really lead a community or that people should look to someone to lead them towards the path of what decency is. It's definitely good to get a mentor, but I don't think you could apply that, within its entirety, to someone on the internet who does not fully know you. I'm saying that you can definitely take what I say and pull your own thoughts in agreement or disagreement to it, but don't view me as someone that could be a full honest-to-God mentor. And when it comes to the Project Moon community, I've said over and over that I am distancing myself from it. Not to say I'll never play Limbus, as again, the distancing is because I like doing general non-Limbus oriented content, and it's been doing alright, I'm pretty proud of it. So I wouldn't really want to sit here and say I'm some pillar of the Project Moon community. It's true that I've made hundreds of videos on their works and greatly love what they make, and I don't plan to leave the community anytime soon. But I don't want to sit here and say I'm some paragon in the community while if it wasn't for APR, I probably would have made like only 10 Limbus videos this year. So I'm saying that, motherfucker, I'm not a pillar in the Project Moon community. I'm a pillar in my own community. Now with my channel being at this size and with me covering Project Moon, I know people will still view me as that. But I want to make my stance clear as it'd feel weird spouting all this talk without stating how I really feel. So here's what I have to say to my community. Don't hate someone over nothing or run with your own narrative about them based on so little. However, if you see truly dogshit behavior, it's fine to bring that to the public. In fact, there's obvious times where it has been good to do so. Both in exposing Zet's fucking Mein Kampf version 2.0, boundaries need to be made. He said all this in a public forum. People get the right to respond in that public forum. He's a full-grown adult, we need not baby him. And to me, calling out people on their bullshit is good for them. As if my friend didn't call out how stupid I was being with the original script, I would have added to the fire and caused people to hate on G-Chan. However, when people go and spam his email, you're just being a dumbass. You're taking somebody who's filled with hate and giving them reason to push them further in that mindset. So just say what they did, inform others of it, and show evidence behind the content of his character. All of that is valid to do. It's the same energy he's putting out in the world. But if you go further than that, you're also the bad guy. Spamming his emails doesn't make Zet a sympathetic case in what he said, but it makes the people who've done it also pieces of shit alongside him. And at this point, it's best to just block Zet if you dislike him, as I doubt anyone would be able to really shed light to him on why what he's saying is so stupid at this point. So that's my thoughts on all of this. I feel like G-Chan's video got a lot wrong and is a lesson in how to not handle a nuanced situation like this or a view of neutrality. I think people supporting Zet are dumb because if you're fine with the hate speech he has, then he's still shown in abundance how much he treats his community like shit. But end of the day, it's your time. I don't get a say in how you spend it. And the Progeny community definitely latches onto people being the bad guy, but it's not unique in that. 99% of fandoms already do. The best way to help this is to spread the message of actually understanding one another and not spreading misinfo about people's viewpoints. Like the idiots who called me homophobic. You look dumb. Don't do that. However, with saying all this, I know just how little impact my words can really have on people. It reminds me of how in my State of the Internet video I mentioned some CN community drama, and I specifically told people to not use this drama as a springboard to be racist. Sure enough, some people in the comments were and saying all Chinese players are X, Y, and Z. So I know the power behind the words of a content creator, but I also know how people are readily willing to ignore whatever doesn't fit their narrative. But to end this video on a high note, just don't be a piece of shit. Also, if Zet has a video to make explaining some of his actions I talked about in this video, hear him out. And by the way, I don't even like making videos like this. Why am I in a position where I need to explain morality to people? Motherfuckers, learn that shit yourself. And then the next one's gonna be me doing a deep dive into a corrupt organization? Man, fuck this shit. I'm taking a vacation after all this. And actually, last sign off, all the money this video makes in the first week I will donate to Outright International. Because I know Zet's fragile racist ego made him watch every second of this 40-minute long video, so I will put that half cent I got from his ad revenue to a cause that enrages him.